All right, ladies and gentlemen, Bill Kristol joins us in just a moment here. It's so good to be back. So good to be back. Love you, JD. Don't get me wrong. But first, Paul Ryan was speaking, and let's see what he had to say.
I'm not going to get into the speculation or hypotheticals. None of these things are ever blank checks. That goes with any situation in any kind of race. But right now, I just think it's important that the voters, he won the delegates. He won the thing fair and square. It's just that simple.
All right. And joining us right now, and it's just that simple, is the one and only Bill Kristol, our friend, editor for the Weekly Standard, ABC News contributor. It's been too long, Bill. How are you, my friend?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good.
It's never really that simple, is it? That's life, right? Life's complicated.
Life is complicated. So when Paul Ryan... All right, so are you surprised? Do you expect Paul Ryan at any point to withdraw his support publicly for Donald Trump?
No, I'd be very surprised. I mean, I don't know why some people like me are not supporting Trump, but if you've already made your peace with Trump and decided that it's a binary choice, as Ryan likes to say over and over, and that, Hillary Clinton is totally unacceptable when Trump's the only alternative, I mean, apart from shooting someone on Fifth Avenue, what would Trump say or do that's different from what he's already said and done? So I guess he'll stick where he is, griping. And this is why I really dislike the Paul Ryan and the other kind of Republican leadership types who are for Trump but are endlessly complaining about Trump. I mean, if you're for him, right, in a way. What good does it do to then snipe at him unless you're going to say, I'm sorry, I can't support him, which I think is an honorable position. But, there's something a little ridiculous about all the, I don't agree on this, I don't agree on that, I wish he would change his message on that, and, all of it sold to the press nonstop.
All right, let me ask you about someone like Meg Whitman, who yesterday called Trump a demagogue, and she's not only going that route, but also actively supporting Hillary Clinton. Can you see yourself ever coming out between now and Election Day and saying, I support Hillary Clinton?
Very unlikely. I really can't see it. As Paul Ryan said there, I guess you should never be 100% convinced, but I don't support Hillary Clinton for president.
Well, that's now, I know, but you say never. Say never.
Know. I mean, who knows what will happen in the world? Maybe she'll have a wonderful, look, she's not been a good Secretary of State on the substance, on the foreign policy issues I care a lot about. She has a poor record. Some of the things she says are a little closer to where I am than where Trump is, I suppose, on NATO and some of these other issues, but I don't have much confidence in her ability to carry out a strong American foreign policy. And obviously, on a personal level, she's been dishonest about so many things over so many years. So I do have and really would continue to have, I expect to continue to have, not to be supporting Hillary Clinton.
And the Supreme Court weigh in on it for you as well?
Yeah, sure. I mean, should be. Look, this is the biggest argument for people, friends of mine. I was with someone the other night who's a very close friend who's supporting Trump, and he has no illusions about Trump's limitations and problems. He just thinks at the end of the day we'll get better Supreme Court appointments. The other stuff can be kept in check. I don't agree with that necessarily, because I think being president is also very important, not just making Supreme Court appointments, but I respect, that's a hard-headed view. What I'd say about my friend is he's not kidding himself. He's not going out there in public and saying silly things about how Donald Trump's a wonderful man or trying to spin the attack on the Khan parents as somehow justified and that sort of thing. So I respect people who are hard-headedly making the calculations. They want a Republican administration. Trump's the nominee. They can live with it. They think they can work around the problems. That's fine. What is weird about the kind of leadership types is they've got themselves wrapped around the axle so much, and they're endlessly, having to, I don't know. I just sort of struck watching these interviews like the one you played there, and it just feels so unseemly to me. If you're supporting someone, support them, and if you're not, don't.
Yeah, no, yeah, and you've registered that complaint before. What about the intervention? What about the prospect of Newt Gingrich, Rudy Giuliani? I don't know why, but Chris Christie and those people of that ilk sitting down wherever with Donald Trump and saying, "Look, here's the deal. Should that happen? Could that happen? Will that happen?"
I think the whole term is so insulting to Trump, really. I mean, look, I worked as I was Dan Quayle's chief of staff. There were times when I told Dan Quayle, I think what you said there wasn't the best way to say it, and I think you should do this, or I think we should reconsider this decision. There are times I trust that, Jim Baker said the same to George H.W. Bush, and that everyone says that too. And if you're at the level of Rudy Giuliani or Chris Christie, you're obviously entitled. In fact, it would be a dereliction of duty not to have that conversation with Donald Trump. He's not perfect, and people deserve to get candid advice. Why you go talking to the media about, I'm going to have an intervention, that's just covering your own behind, right? I mean, if you want to have an intervention, intervene. They have Donald Trump's phone number. They have Paul Manafort's phone number. They can probably get a meeting with him at the Trump Tower. So it's kind of pathetic to be talking to reporters about how you hope to have an intervention with Donald Trump.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. What about the polls? You know, Trump had a bounce. And then, of course, Hillary's had a bigger bounce. The polls out today are kind of, you know, devastating if you're a Trump supporter. Is that still plenty of time? I mean, could all that change? I'm not saying you're rooting for it to change. I'm just asking, is it too early?
You know, as you just said, it proves the point. I mean, if we've had this amount of movement in a week or two, why couldn't we have this movement back? It's not like people have suddenly locked in forever, I don't think, against Trump or for Hillary. And you can imagine events and other things coming out about Hillary's emails and Trump writing his own ship some. There are a lot of voters who don't like either one much, don't trust, aren't really confident that either one is the right person to be president. We know that from that. That's been very steady in the polls. That hasn't bounced around much. So when you have when you have voters looking at two people who they have real big question marks about, I think you'd expect a volatile race. People will say, gee, that one's really kind of bad. Then, oh, wait, maybe the other one's a little worse, So I actually wouldn't give up. I'm not for Trump, but if I were for advising Trump, I think he's got time, and I think he can steady his own ship. He's done some damage, I think. But again, a lot of it is, stuff that on the more fundamental issues, if he can get people refocused on some of the 2 or 3 big questions facing the country where the public may be with him more than with the Democrats, that's what I think he needs to do. He needs to get it back to immigration and trade. I mean, I don't even agree with him on all these issues like trade, but still, those are the issues he ran on. That's really where I think he's got some real public support. Make it a referendum on Obama and Hillary Clinton's foreign policy, Libya, Benghazi, and all that. That's real, and if he just talks about that, if I were him, I'd give a detailed speech on that. Let's look at Libya as a case study.
Yep.
Read a speech for 20 minutes. Let the media cover that for 3 or 4 days.
They'll cut out of it and run a highlight reel of his gaffes. Bill, always great to speak to you, my friend. Thank you very much.
Sure. See you, Steve. Bye.
Bill Kristol, ladies and gentlemen. Up next, Congressman Lee Zeldin from New York, a member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee on Terrorism. We'll talk about that transfer of money, ransom to Iran. Don't go away.